I checked my watch for the third time, even though I was already ready. My shirt was neatly pressed, my shoes polished, and a small box with a necklace sat in my jacket pocket. Tonight was our 12th wedding anniversary, and I wanted everything to feel special. Clara and I hadn't been as close as before. The laughter in our home had become rare, our conversations short and practical. Still, I told myself this dinner could change things. Maybe we only needed a quiet evening together, away from stress, to remember what had brought us this far. I booked a table at the same restaurant where we had celebrated our first anniversary. Back then, we were younger, full of dreams, and every touch felt magical. I hoped that going back, there would bring some of that spark alive again. As I tied my tie, I thought about the necklace. It wasn't fancy, but it had a small heart-shaped pendant, engraved with our initials. I imagined Clara smiling when I gave it to her, maybe even hugging me like she used to. On the drive to the restaurant, I kept remembering moments from our past. The day I proposed in the rain, the night we danced in the kitchen with no music, the mornings when she would wake me with coffee and a kiss. My heart was full of hope that tonight could be a new beginning. I didn't know that it would be the night everything ended. The restaurant was glowing softly when I walked in. Golden lights hung from the ceiling like little stars, and the gentle sound of a piano filled the air. Couples sat close together, talking quietly, their faces warm in the candlelight. It was the perfect place for love, the kind of setting that could remind two people why they had chosen each other in the first place. The waiter led me to our table near the window. I could see the city lights outside, shining against the dark night sky. I placed a small gift box on the table, covering it partly with a napkin, so Clara wouldn't notice it right away. My palms were slightly sweaty, but my heart was light with hope. A few minutes later, Clara arrived. She looked stunning, wearing a silver dress that shimmered under the soft lights. For a moment, I forgot all my doubts. She smiled politely, not warmly, but enough to make me think things might be fine. We sat down, and I tried to start the evening with light conversation. I asked about her day, her work, and her plans for the weekend. She answered, but her tone was flat, almost distracted. Her eyes kept wandering around the restaurant, as if she were waiting for something or someone. I brushed the thought aside and kept trying. I told a joke about our daughter's funny habits, and Clara laughed, but the laughter felt short, forced, like a performance. I tried not to notice, telling myself that she was just tired. The waiter poured wine into our glasses. I lifted mine slightly, preparing to give a small toast to us, to our 12 years together. My heart beat faster, ready for the moment I thought would bring us closer. I didn't know her toast would change everything. The waiter poured the red wine carefully into our glasses. The candles flickered between us, casting soft shadows on Clara's face. I felt my nerves rise, but also a quiet excitement. This was the moment. I wanted to lift my glass and say something sweet about our marriage, about how much she still meant to me, even after all these years. I held the stem of my glass and opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Clara moved first. She stood slightly in her chair, lifting her glass high, her eyes shining in a way I hadn't seen in months. For a second, I felt relief. Maybe she was about to surprise me with a romantic toast of her own. Her lips curved into a smile. "To us," she said. Her voice was clear, and I smiled back, raising my glass to join hers. But then her words continued, sharp as a knife. "And to Adrian, who has shown me what real happiness feels like." The sound of his name froze me. My hand trembled, the glass almost slipping from my fingers. Around us, forks paused in midair, glasses stopped clinking. A hush spread across the tables nearby as people turned to look. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh, to say it was some strange joke. But Clara only smiled and sipped her wine, as if nothing unusual had been said. Adrian. The name echoed in my head. I knew who he was, a colleague from her office, someone she had mentioned casually before. My stomach twisted as I realized the truth. I whispered, my throat dry, What did you just say?" Clara set her glass down slowly, looking at me with calm eyes. "You heard me." My chest tightened. The candles no longer seemed warm. The room suddenly felt cold, suffocating. I looked around and saw strangers pretending not to stare, whispering behind their hands. This was supposed to be our night of love, a night of healing. Instead, with one careless toast, Clara had broken everything, and the dinner had only just begun. Her words kept ringing in my ears. To Adrian, who has shown me what real happiness feels like. It didn't feel real. For a moment, I thought I had imagined it, that maybe I had misheard her, but the calm look on her face told me it was no mistake. I sat frozen, my hands stiff around the glass. Memories started flooding back, each one carrying a red flag I had ignored. The late nights when Clara said she was working on urgent projects. The sudden habit of keeping her phone face down on the table. The way she grew colder whenever I tried to hold her hand or kiss her cheek. I had told myself it was just stress from work or maybe exhaustion. I had convinced myself that marriages go through phases, that distance didn't always mean disaster. But now, in the middle of this restaurant with people staring, I realized the truth. She hadn't been tired. She had been slipping away from me. The strange smiles I saw on her face when she read text messages. The quiet moments when she would drift into thought, smiling at something she didn't share with me. It all made sense now. She wasn't dreaming of us anymore. She was dreaming of him. The illusion of our marriage, 12 years of shared life, promises, and sacrifices, shattered in front of me. Every effort I had made to bring her closer, every plan for our future together, felt like glass breaking into pieces too sharp to hold. I thought I had been building something steady, something unshakable, but I was blind. Clara had already stepped outside of our story, writing a new one with someone else, while I stood there clinging to memories. And in that moment I realized the woman I loved wasn't mine anymore. My heart pounded as I placed my glass back on the table with trembling hands. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "Clara, what did you mean by that toast?" She didn't flinch. She looked straight into my eyes, her face calm, almost cold. "I meant exactly what I said. I've been with Adrian for months now. He makes me feel alive again. Something I haven't felt with you in years." Her words struck harder than any blow. I could barely breathe. The background music, the clinking of glasses, even the whispers around us, all faded. All I could hear was the sound of my world collapsing. I shook my head, my voice breaking. "After everything we've built, after our daughter, our home, our life, you're telling me this here tonight, at our anniversary dinner?" Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. "I didn't want to keep living a lie. You deserve to know the truth. I don't love you the way I used to." The words echoed in my chest, hollowing me out. Anger rose, mixing with hurt. "So you choose to humiliate me in front of strangers? To raise a glass to another man while I sit here like a fool?" People at nearby tables were watching openly now. Some looked away awkwardly, but others stared, unable to turn from the drama unfolding in front of them. Clara sighed, almost annoyed. "Michael, please lower your voice. You're making a scene." I laughed bitterly, though it came out broken. "I'm making a scene? You just told me my marriage is over, and I'm the one embarrassing us." She looked down at her plate, silent. That silence screamed louder than any words. I felt the heat rise in my chest, the weight of betrayal crushing me. Finally, I pushed back my chair, the legs scraping loudly against the polished floor. Every eye turned toward me as I stood. "I hope Adrian is worth everything you've just destroyed," I said, my voice shaking with rage and pain. Without waiting for her reply, I walked out of the restaurant, leaving Clara and the broken pieces of our life behind. The night air hit me as I stepped out of the restaurant, but it didn't cool the fire burning inside me. My chest felt heavy, as if a stone had been dropped into it. I walked without direction, my mind racing, my hands clenched into fists. By the time I reached home, the silence of the house felt louder than the noise of the city. I dropped my keys on the table and sat on the couch, staring into the dark. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of Clara, our wedding photo on the wall, the cushion she had picked, the faint smell of her perfume on the throw blanket. I pulled out my phone and opened old photos. There we were, smiling at the beach, holding our newborn daughter, laughing on our 10th anniversary. Each picture felt like a cruel lie now, mocking me with memories of promises that no longer meant anything. I poured myself a drink, then another and another. The whiskey burned, but not enough to numb the ache inside. I whispered into the silence, as if she were still there. Why, Clara? Why now? Why him? Sleep didn't come. I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying her toast again and again. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted more than anyone, had looked me in the eye and chosen someone else. By morning, I felt empty, like a shell of the man I had been just a day before. My marriage wasn't just broken. It was gone. The morning sun slipped through the curtains, but it felt harsh instead of warm. My head ached from lack of sleep and too much whiskey. I hadn't moved from the couch when my phone buzzed. It was James, my closest friend since college. His voice was steady but heavy. Michael, we need to talk. I didn't want to tell you like this, but after last night, you should know the whole truth. My heart tightened. What truth? I asked, though I already feared the answer. James hesitated, then said, Clara and Adrian, they've been together for almost a year. It wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. She's been seeing him behind your back, meeting him after work, traveling with him. People at her office knew. I thought you might have noticed. His words hit me like a hammer. Almost a year, while I had been planning surprises, cooking dinners, and hoping to fix our marriage, she had been building a secret life with someone else. And Adrian, James continued softly, he's not just some guy. He's been bragging about it. He told people at work that he won her, that he took her from you. I felt sick. Adrian wasn't only my wife's lover. He was someone I had once trusted. I had even helped him with his career, recommended him for projects. And this was how he repaid me. James's voice lowered. I'm sorry, Michael. You didn't deserve this. Not from her, and definitely not from him. I sat in silence, the betrayal cutting deeper than before. It wasn't just Clara who had broken me. It was Adrian, too. Together, they had made me the fool. For 2 days, I walked around in a haze. I barely ate, barely spoke. My thoughts were tangled between anger, shame, and heartbreak. At first, all I wanted was revenge. I imagined storming into Adrian's office, shouting in Clara's face, or exposing them to everyone. But deep inside, I knew that kind of revenge would only leave me more empty. One evening, as I sat in the quiet house, my daughter, Emma, came home from college. She took one look at me and asked softly, Dad, are you okay? Her question broke me. I didn't tell her every detail, but I admitted, Your mom, she doesn't love me anymore. My voice cracked as I said it. Emma sat beside me and held my hand. Then let her go, she whispered. Don't let her destroy you, too. Her words struck me harder than Clara's betrayal. In that moment, I realized I still had something worth living for, my daughter, my future, and myself. I couldn't keep drowning in Clara's choices. I had to choose differently. The next morning, I made small changes. I went for a long run. I cleaned the house, putting away reminders of Clara. I cooked a real breakfast for myself instead of skipping meals. Each small act gave me a little strength back. Days turned into weeks. I threw myself into work, finishing projects with focus I hadn't felt in months. I started sketching again, a hobby I'd abandoned years ago. Slowly, I began to see myself not as Clara's husband, but as Michael, an individual capable of rebuilding. Revenge didn't mean hurting her back. My revenge would be living well, healing, and proving that her betrayal didn't define me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a faint light of freedom. 6 months passed, and life looked very different. The sharp pain had faded into a quiet scar. I was no longer waking up with Clara's face in my mind. Instead, my mornings were filled with small routines that brought me peace, jogging at sunrise, making coffee, and reading before work. People at the office noticed a change. I looked sharper, more focused, more alive. Even Emma commented during one of her visits, Dad, you seem lighter now. And she was right. I had let go of the weight that once crushed me. Meanwhile, Clara's perfect picture with Adrian didn't last. Word spread that Adrian left her for someone else, the same way he had stolen her from me. Clara tried reaching out, sending messages that said she wanted to talk or clear things up. I read them but never replied. I had no interest in reopening a door that had already been closed. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. One evening, at a friend's gathering, I caught Clara's eyes across the room. She looked tired, older somehow. For a second, I saw regret in her face. But for the first time, I felt nothing. No pain, no bitterness, only peace. The man who had walked out of that restaurant broken was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, someone who had survived betrayal and come out free. I sat on my balcony one quiet night, a glass of wine in my hand. The city lights sparkled below, but this time they didn't remind me of loss. They reminded me of possibility. I raised my glass, not to Clara, not to Adrian, not even to revenge, but to myself. At that dinner, I whispered. She toasted another man. But tonight, I toast to freedom, to strength, and to a future I'll create on my own. For the first time in years, the smile on my face was real.